Welcome back. The Department of Defense has a 2028 audit deadline. That's when Congress has mandated that the entire department should get a clean opinion on its books. Joseph Nave is the principal at KPMG. Joe, welcome. Thanks for coming on. You've been ankle deep and elbow deep in audit for a long time, and you're writing about the 3 T's of financial management success. The first 2 are moving from transactional to transformational. What do you mean by that?
Right. So if you look at some of the challenges that our clients face across the organization and across the different functional lanes, you can have a nuanced problem that's very discrete, that's focused on one particular issue. So you go in and you solve that problem. When you look at transformational, you're really tying all those problems together, and that's where you're getting true reform, true sustainability. So it's really taking the pieces parts to make up the puzzle, and that's where you get into transformational, and then you layer in technology and all the other things that'll help enable the workforce and the change, and that's how you truly transform.
What are the biggest obstacles that people have run into in that move, in moving from looking at individual issues to thinking about things in a more holistic way?
Well, I think that, you know, there's no shortage of challenges, right? So it's really prioritizing. You know, you've got things that are right in front of you that may affect the mission, may affect the operations of the organization that you want to go after first. So it's prioritizing and really going after those things that are going to be highest risk, which may not always be financial. When you look at the mission of the organization, it's really focusing on what we need to do for the warfighter. So in the context of the DoD, it's prioritizing, and then once you bubble some of those priorities together, then you can come up with a cohesive strategy that affects all the different functional lanes and break down some of those silos.
The department made a big deal about the Marine Corps achieving a clean opinion, the first service to do it in fiscal 23. What's the biggest obstacle to making something like that replicable? Not necessarily just for the Marine Corps, but achieving a clean opinion is great, but you have to do it again next year.
Right. So the challenge is that every organization is different. You know, the criteria and what the requirement is for these entities doesn't change, but when you look at the ethos of the organization, or you look at what those particular challenges are, or where they are in the implementation timeline of some of their big system upgrades, or some of their processes where they're trying to become more efficient leveraging technology. You've got all of these different disparate points that you're trying to pull together, and from an audit perspective, that can tend to create a certain level of risk, because you don't want to implement something that's going to be challenging down the road that may not pass an audit. So you have to pull together all of those factors and look at the strategy of what you're trying to do organizationally to make yourself better and make yourself more efficient, but also layering in those criteria related to the audit and the accounting framework. So it can be a very challenging thing to accomplish, but that's where it's important to have cohesion amongst all the functional lanes, and also that tone at the top that you probably have heard folks talk about before, and someone driving the organization towards that end.
I've definitely heard about the tone at the top, but what builds that cohesion within the organizations, and I guess horizontally too, because you want to have, for example, in DoD, services aligned, moving in the same direction, even if they're working on different tasks.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the way that the federal government works, they work extremely well together. Really, the cohesion is just that synergy across functional domains, increasing, you know, getting together with the different organizations, whether it's, you know, the installations and logistics, or it's your comptroller, or it's someone out that's at the tip of the spear, or it's someone that's fixing a plane. It's pulling all of those folks together in a manner that is going to get them aligned to the vision and the strategy. The best way to do that many times is through industry events. It's also through symposiums that are hosted by the federal government. So there's a lot of different ways for them to coordinate and collaborate amongst each other. The clients that we serve, we've seen across the board that collaboration and cohesiveness definitely increase. Not only to, you know, you want to go fast, but you want to go fast smartly. Pulling all those people together, they're starting to realize a lot of returns on the strategies that they're implementing.
All right, we have a little bit more than a minute left. I mentioned the 3 T's, transactional to transformational, and the third T is transparency. Transparency for whom, and transparency about what?
Right, so, you know, we serve the American people. So when we look at transparency, we want to put together a strategy that is going to not only get an organization auditable, and there are many organizations that already are auditable, but it's increasing the transparency to the American public and the taxpayers, that they feel confident, that they know where their dollars are going, and also increasing transparency within the organization from a data perspective. Use data as an asset. Let's start looking at all the data that we have as an asset. And once we get that transparency and those complete sets of data and accurate data, then we can start to leverage it and really take the organization forward exponentially.
Quick final thought, about 30 seconds left. What's the best data for organizations to leverage? What should they make sure they have right first?
Yeah, so I think depending on which functional lane, you know, someone's going to have a certain opinion about that. I think you have to look at all the data together. I think you have to have a clear strategy, a clear data governance strategy that shows you across all the functional lanes, whether it's procurement information, whether it's supply data, whether it's financial data. You can't look at those discretely, because if you do, you're kind of missing the end-to-end picture. So once you get the data and the data strategy in place, then you're going to want to look at all, and you're going to come up with those KPIs that are going to give you the best insight into your data.
Joe, thanks very much for joining me. I appreciate it.